It was the first day of school, and I, a high school student named Sarah, was excited for the new year to begin. As I walked down the hall, I noticed a new transfer student who seemed to be lost. He was tall, with black hair and piercing green eyes. I couldn't help but feel drawn to him. "Excuse me, do you need help finding your way?" I asked him. "Yes, actually. I'm new here, and I'm not quite sure where I'm supposed to be," he replied with a smile. "No problem, I'll show you where your first class is," I offered. "Thank you, I really appreciate it," he said gratefully. As we walked to his first class, I couldn't help but feel a strange energy surrounding him. He was so kind and polite, and I found myself wanting to know more about him. After showing him to his class, I went on my own, but I couldn't focus on anything. My mind kept going back to the new transfer student. Throughout the day, I kept running into the new transfer student, and each time I saw him, I felt a strange energy surrounding him. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but something about him was different. That night, as I was getting ready for bed, I heard a strange noise coming from my window. When I opened it, I was shocked to see the transfer student standing outside. "What are you doing here?" I asked, confused. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. I just needed to talk to you," he replied, looking apologetic. "What's wrong?" I asked, concerned. "I can't explain it, but I feel like we're connected in some way." "I just had to see you," he said, sounding desperate. I was both scared and intrigued by what was happening. I had never encountered anything like this before. I invited him inside, and we sat down to talk. As we spoke, I began to feel more and more comfortable around him. It was like I had known him my entire life. Over the next few days, I continued to have strange encounters with the transfer student. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about him. Finally, I mustered up the courage to confront him. "Listen, I don't mean to be rude, but there's something different about you." "I can feel it," I said, looking directly into his eyes. "You're right. There is something different about me," he said, sounding sad. "What is it?" I asked, intrigued. "I'm a ghost," he said, his eyes filling with tears. I was shocked and didn't know what to say. I had never believed in ghosts, but there was one standing right in front of me. I didn't know what to do, but I couldn't help but feel sorry for him. Despite the shock of finding out that the transfer student was a ghost, I couldn't help but feel drawn to him. We started talking every night, and I found myself falling in love with him. He was kind, funny, and just felt so familiar to me. I couldn't explain it, but it felt like I had known him my entire life. "I can't believe I'm falling in love with a ghost," I said one night as we sat on my bed, talking. "I know, it's crazy. But I can't help how I feel," he replied, sounding just as bewildered as I was. As time went on, our conversations became more intimate and our feelings for each other grew stronger. I couldn't imagine my life without him, even though he was a ghost. I felt like he was the missing piece of my puzzle, and I was finally complete. However, things took a dark turn when strange things started happening in my room. Doors would creak open on their own, and objects would move by themselves. I was scared, and I didn't know what was happening. "Is this because of you?" I asked the transfer student, worried. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean for this to happen. My presence can sometimes cause strange things to happen," he replied, looking apologetic. Despite my fear, I couldn't bring myself to push him away. I was too in love with him to let go. I tried to ignore the strange occurrences, but they only seemed to get worse. One night, my fear finally got the best of me, and I told my friends about what was happening. They didn't believe me at first, but after they experienced the strange happenings for themselves, they were just as frightened as I was. We decided to investigate what was causing the strange occurrences. We spent hours researching and finally discovered that the transfer student was not just any ghost, but a restless spirit who was seeking revenge on those who had wronged him in life. We realized that the only way to lay him to rest was to uncover the truth about his death and bring his murderer to justice. We were determined to solve the mystery of the transfer student's death and bring his killer to justice. We searched through old records and talked to anyone who might have known him in life. It was a long and difficult journey, but we finally uncovered the truth. The transfer student had been murdered by a close friend who had become jealous of his success and popularity. The killer had pushed him off a cliff, causing him to fall to his death. We were shocked and saddened by what we had discovered. With the truth finally uncovered, we decided to confront the killer. We met him in a dark alley, and he was immediately defensive. "What do you want from me?" he asked, sounding angry. "We know what you did to the transfer student." "We know you killed him," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "That's a lie," he yelled, denying our accusations. But we had the evidence to prove his guilt, and he eventually broke down and confessed to his crime. We turned him over to the police, and he was arrested for murder. With the killer finally brought to justice, the transfer student's spirit was finally able to rest. The strange occurrences in my room stopped, and I felt a sense of peace that I had never felt before. I was heartbroken that my time with the transfer student had come to an end, but I was grateful that he was finally at peace. I would never forget him and the love that we shared, even though it was only for a brief time. As I was closing the book on the transfer student's case, I heard a faint whisper in my ear. It was his voice. "I will never forget you. I will always love you," he said, before fading away. I was stunned and couldn't believe what I had just heard. I thought he was gone forever, but it seemed that he still lingered, at least in some small way. But the true twist came when I found out that the transfer student wasn't just a ghost, but a ghost from the future. He had come back in time to find me, to be with me, and to help me solve his own murder. I was shocked and amazed at the same time. I had fallen in love with a ghost from the future, and our love story was unlike any other. Thank you for listening. While this narrative is only a fictionalized version of an event, we hope you found it entertaining. Please consider liking the video and do subscribe for more interesting and intriguing stories from me. Until next time, be safe, be kind, and know that you are appreciated.